I know the one thing that everybody is looking forward to for the month of Pride Month, which is reading some really good and juicy gay stories. I know all of you in the comments down below are just waiting to hear something spicy, but it's not. This is not it, guys. If you really want that, watch Heated Rivalries. These are just based on Webtoon comics. These are not based on like any other platforms and so thing. I'm only really basing these on the stuff I've read off of Webtoon, and some of these artists do have special Patreons because I know people are like, oh, let's go into the spicy bits of things, but let's keep it at least for the safe side of Webtoon for right now. Now, I've come up with 5 of them. I've come up with 5 comics which I feel like is really good for this sort of Pride Month sort of thing. Take note, I haven't done a suggestion list like this, so this is kind of new to me. Now, the first one I thought was good was My Little Demon, which is a story based on a lonely boy who's in his apartment, starting college and that stuff, who suddenly would just be appeared with a demon in his apartment. Starting out with a massive amount of annoyance, but then suddenly slowly gains the feelings of both of them, start to gain feelings with them, and then they discover there's other demons out there, and so on so thing. There's demon underworld, and so on so thing. It's been a while since I've read it, and I personally enjoyed it when I read it, but I would feel that maybe in some way or another I would have to read it again, but it is still a really good read. I've tried to keep it up the best I can with the latest chapters. The art style does change a lot in between the first episode up to the latest episode, which is not surprising. Like, it was the same thing with a certain comic artist who originally had one art style but then changed the art style at a certain point. Like by chapter 3 it was a completely different comic style in itself. I feel like it's the same effect here. The second one, which has officially ended, this one ended a couple of years ago, was #Muted, about a story about somebody who went through a lot of traumatic events. Doesn't really speak a lot there, like it's literally in the title, it's called #Muted. He would meet a guy named Jasper, the first person to finally break down the barrier of this traumatized experience from Kai, and like it would be the first time that he would ever have somebody actually get through the traumatic experiences to actually finally get to his heart. And this would be something not only that Jasper would do, but Kai would notice too, as the both of them would like have those feelings for together. Like later in the episodes, there's a lot of lore dumping, there's a lot of trauma to it, like trauma dumping. Like there's another comic that does the same thing in the later episodes but hasn't ended. I'll get to that one shortly. This one to me, I really liked a lot. Like it was a nice one, but I hate the fact that it ended up ending so soon. Like I think that this one could have been a little bit longer, or at least we would have it like maybe another story to it, maybe a couple of years later or something. But it is a beautiful story. It takes a minute to get into, but it's such a beautiful story. Now, the next one, which is not finished yet, it's actually in the middle of this hiatus thing where they're not quite drawing or doing anything with it, but it's called Out of Sight, Out of Body, which is basically an enemy to lover story that ends up taking a turn for the worst. When they were in their worst position ever, there would be this incident that would lead River to becoming some form of a ghost. And Soren would have to help him become a normal person again because, well, so-and-so thing, he can't interact with normal people and so-and-so thing. And then it would lead to a case of, well, them slowly opening themselves up because they don't... Well, River has nobody else to talk to, right? I mean, plus Soren has to keep an eye on River and so thing to hope that he doesn't float away or something like that. The deeper they go, these shields of like the enemy shields start to break down a lot, to the point to where literally they start to develop feelings for each other, where they finally realize that they have those feelings for each other. I mean, it sucks the fact that they kind of ended it off, like at least so far, it's like it's kind of in a point where they didn't finish it yet. I thought it was a nice story. I talked about it a couple of years ago, but it was like, it's such a good story, but it needs to finish off. It's kind of like My Name is Earl, like something that you have to know the information of, the lore and something, but then you don't actually get to see it. Like that to me is that one of the biggest downsides of the story is that it ends off on a bit of a cliff note. Hopefully they'll get back to it eventually. This next one is on a hiatus as well, but is not on a hiatus as an indefinite hiatus, but just between like seasons. Castle Swimmer. This one ended up being the very first like comic, webtoon comic I would really get into, and the first ever gay comic I got into. This is a story about two fishes. One of them is technically a siren, and then you have Kappa, who is a mer. Kappa is one to fulfill prophecies, and unfortunately the prophecy would be led to, thanks to Siren, would lead to him getting trapped at the castle and so on and so thing, and the whole prophecy, some of those things, would lead to, well, them believing that they would have to kill the beacon, which is what he's called. Now, Siren sees through this whole thing. They would realize that they're attached to each other, because it was a case where at Siren's castle that the so-and-so thing, like, their people would get harmed and so-and-so thing. The population was reducing. It eventually get to a point to where they realized what was going on by the very end of the first season, and almost kill Kappa, thanks to Siren's ignorant mother, that would just essentially try to like deceive them. Kappa and Siren go and leave the castle. Well, Kappa leaves first, but then Siren leaves to try to figure out a way to end this whole prophecy and so and so thing without Siren dying. Continues on with like Kappa and so thing meeting other characters, and like so far, like, I don't want to spoil anymore because that's gonna like hurt a lot of people for me to spoil so much. I do really like the story of how this one went. I like again, I'm a massive fan of Merman, so it's a case where this kind of gets a bonus on me. The love story in between Kappa and Siren is very beautiful. I think if anything, it's one of the best ones besides the one I'm going to talk about next, which is the number one, I would say. But this story is really well done. I'm so curious how the next season's gonna go, because the next season has a massive plot twist. Like, we were left off on a cliff note. Now, if you read it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, but anybody who doesn't, please read the comics. They're in the link in the description. But the last one, which I actually ended up talking about, so there'll be separate videos, is Starcatcher. And oh my god, Starcatcher, don't even get me started with the two gay boys. Don't even get me started with Thomas. Don't even get me started with Thomas. Just the beautiful start with how they would meet up at college. They would meet each other for the first time. Lucas would absolutely freak out and then just completely forget his bag. Thomas would sit on a bench just waiting for Lucas. And that's how the whole thing started. They would talk and talk and talk, have these interesting things of D&D and so and so thing. They would talk, they would have this whole friendship going on. This friendship go on for years, like 2 years in fact. And then it gets to a point to where they finally had that moment to be able to confess their love. And it's just, man, it's such a beautiful story. And by far my favorite. It is my favorite story out of all of them. And in fact, I would say that in itself, it's the most perfect story you can have. It's also got like a bunch of trauma involved with it too, between like Lucas and Thomas, which is very good because you have to be held down by not just a fairy tale, you have to be held down by some form of concrete stuff. Some people say that it's a bit too perfect, but I think if anything, it's a beautiful story. Like, it's like sometimes the most traumatic stuff kind of throws a story off from being pure, which in itself like kind of does, is actually true in some way or another. But I think if anything, like, I made 2 videos on it, and I do recommend watching those videos if you want to get more into the story and that stuff. There are other videos and stuff, but again, read the stories in itself if you really, really want more or less the beautiful side of it. Now, here's some bonus comics I can include as well. Until Sunset is another merman-based comic in itself. I think it's a nicely done story. They're still continuing it to this day, and there's other pieces of work from the actual artist that you can actually purchase. Some of the thing if you really want that vibe. Sweet Cinnamon is one that I haven't read in a while, but it is again kind of like Starcatcher in a way, but not like the same way. It's got like more of an anime style. I haven't read it in a while, but I think that it's a nice one. I think I would have to read it again though. Love Bites is a Twilight version of it's a Twilight of the gayness. Why did I even say that? It's a gay version of Twilight. Maybe? I think that it's like they're ending the series a bit too soon, which sucks, but I think if anything, it's a decent enough story. Kind of, there's some parts where it kind of is a little cringe of so-and-so thing, like, oh, so-and-so character and so-and-so thing. I hate the fact of how certain elements were taken, but it's what it is. And the last one I do and this unfortunately is a very short one. They haven't even completed, and they have not done this one in a while, and they were mermaids. This one, like, I love the art style, but the unfortunate part is we don't get much about the comic either. So, like, there's only, like, I would say maybe 10 to 15 episodes in total. That's if we're talking actual, like, episodes and everything. Like, it sucks because, again, like, some stories I would love to be able to more, like, have more in depth on. Unfortunately, that's just not the case with at least this one. Hopefully they'll focus on it. There's also one like Lights, which in itself is one that I've been reading and is kind of in its early stages. Hopefully there will be more on that, and I know there's going to be a ton of people who are going to ask me about Asura. I haven't read Asura. I'm planning on reading Asura at some point, but I've got like maybe I'm just too developed into the story of like Starcatcher and Castle Swimmer and that stuff. But yeah, that to me is my list of top 5 best LGBTQ comics. Actually, Yaoi comics, I would probably say. Yaoi comics, because why not? So I'm going to say thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. I will see you guys later when I talk about Project Hail Mary and Iron Lung. I haven't decided yet. Bye!